So as ever, we're starting with a block. We'll start seated this morning. Have that about halfway down on that. And then from the legs out to start with. Just give them a little bit of a stretch to the back of the legs. So you can take a very gentle sort of pressure through the back of the leg, and not pushing it down too much. Let's roll the toes around in the ankles, say hello. At the same time, being sitting up nice and tall, rolling the shoulders back a little bit. And then we'll just cross the legs over and bring the heels in towards the body for Sukhasana. So the knees are out wide, shins are on the ground. And the block is just giving us that little tilt forwards to help stop rounding through the lower back. Just stretching the neck out a little as well. And then we'll take the hands out to the side on the inhale. Use the hands out towards the sky on the breath in. You may not be able to get the hands to touch the first couple of rounds, just the shoulders warm up if they're a little bit sticky. So hands above the shoulders will be fine, but otherwise palms together if you can. And drawing the ribs down towards the hips, and just zipping them up nicely. Giving that nice stretch into the ribs, feeling them open them up into your breath. Those intercostal muscles to have a stretch. First thing in the morning, always a good feeling. Two hands up, above the shoulders, take it into a twist over towards the right. Letting the hands come down on the exhale. Inhaling up. And then taking it over towards the left. So a very simple twist. Conscious of head positions and trying not to let the chin drop. Keeping the spine nice and open. Just following your breath. And see if you can keep the legs relaxed down. If they're joining in and lifting, you want to focus maybe a little more on the hips and letting those groins open and relax. And you do worrying about your arms. They'll kind of do what they want to do anyway. Back into the center. The arms come out. The fingers out towards the right. Allow ourselves to stretch up on the left. Now pressing down through the right hand and lifting with the left, trying to keep the legs neutral. Rather than side bending deeply, that's more of a lift. Now bring the hand down, just take it out to the opposite side. So rather than squeezing the spine, we're stretching it out. The pose looks exactly the same as a side bend would do. The feeling is different. And those hands down again. Bring the fingertips onto the collarbones. Just let the elbows come together as you come into angel wings. Just drawing those elbows up and back. Biggest wings you can make. The elbows into the ribs, far back, and then across the chest, low down. Elbows touch, and then rise again on the breath. Again, one of the ones where we really want those legs to just be as passive as possible. We'll take that a couple of times in the opposite direction. And let the hands come down. We'll stretch the legs out again, say hello to them. I might take a couple of seconds to come back to life. I'm just going to move the block towards the back of the mat as a headrest. Hands behind you towards the chest, roll the spine down gently. Try and get a nice feeling of some mobility going through the spine rather than that sort of clunkiness. It comes sometimes as just first thing in the morning. Take the arms out nice and wide and just shimmy the hips over to the left and let the legs roll down towards the right. I'm going to put the right hand on top of that left leg and help it just rotate down a little further. But we're trying to keep the shoulders as flat to the floor, so sometimes you need to wriggle around a little bit. And it can be nice to turn the head to the left as well. Lift those legs back up, take the arms out, realign the spine, take a breath in the middle, and shimmy them over towards the right, let the legs go down gently towards the left. The left hand comes onto the right side this time. Come back into the center. Realign the spine. Keep the feet close in towards the body. On the center line, we draw the right knee in towards the chest. Take the hands around the shin. And we're just drawing the knee down to the side of the rib towards the armpit a little bit. Pressing the shoulder blades lightly into the floor, drawing the belly in as well. Now swap over. Bring the feet together on the center line and keeping that right knee pointing towards the sky. Now draw the left knee in. See how that feels. Just noticing any differences maybe between one side of the body and the other. In the range of movement that you have, the tightness of the muscles, and the openness of the joints, all those kind of leading you to understand how your body works a little better. Release from there again, and bring the foot to the floor, bring the right leg back in again. Once you draw that and nestle that into its fullness of the stretch, you slide gently the left heel along the ground to a straight leg, and try and lengthen out to the leg and see if you can get the back of your calf to touch the floor. Do that by lengthening out, flexing the foot, pressing out through the heel and rotating the thigh in a little bit. We're avoiding pressing the knee down. It's all about lengthening the leg out and that hip flexor. And if you need to, just drawing your lower back of your pelvis into the ground to get into that tilt negated through the pelvis. We'll just slide the heel back in, swap legs over, take the left knee in, let it settle, and guide as gently as you can your heel along the floor. The keeping in contact with the ground is actually quite key to keeping the muscles in a relaxed state in the lower back as you lengthen your leg out. It's more important than it might seem. It will add to your general comfort of extending your leg out. A couple more breaths. And we'll slide both heels towards the bottom. As we release, so we'll take the right leg to the sky. I'm going to come into a figure four, so turning the toes out, bending the knee and bring that ankle bone to the outside of the thigh. The right knee travels forwards with the foot flexed. And come up onto the tippy toes and draw the left knee in. We'll take the hands, right hand through the center, left hand around the outside, either the back of the thigh or the shin, depending on how the body works. But we're going to keep the spine very long and flat. We're actually going to try and press the tailbone down to the floor and away, and the shoulder blades down into the ground, and press the ribs down into the ground, the bottom of your rib cage at the back and towards the floor. Keeping the spine as long and flat as we can whilst we're in this figure four position. And then we can release from there. Stretch that leg out a little, bring the foot down, and swap over to the opposite side. Just lifting up, rotating ourselves to position the ankle, the knee away as we draw the thigh in. And see where you end up. Now, you may notice if you look back at this video that on the first side I took the back of the thigh, on the second side I'm able to take the shin. That's just a little bit more openness in the hip joint on this side. So it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be equal. It's where your body allows you to move to that we're looking for. Again, we're drawing the shoulders down, back of the ribs down, the belly down, sending the tailbone away. So there's a little feeling of muscular contraction working right down in the abdominal area in the pelvis region. You can feel that stretching out, feel the glutes lengthening away. And then we'll release from there as well. Extend that leg out again, give it a little shake. Draw both knees in, chin in towards the chest, and we'll take a nice hug. Just a little roll on the spine if that feels good. And we'll ease ourselves over to the right side. As we release, the hands come to the floor. Spin the feet round towards the back of the mat, up onto all fours. Yeah, we'll come into a couple of rounds of cat-cow. So just drawing the chest forwards, shoulders back, tailbone to the sky. Exhaling it out, round in the spine. Coming forwards. And exhaling out. And to take that a little more into the roundiness of our spine, come into neutral with your hand and your hands linked back towards your knees. So you've intensified the angles a little bit through the body, and then take the cat-cow. You draw the belly in, allow yourself to lift the spine carefully on the first few. You'll notice your hands and your wrists take a little bit more of a stretch. It just moves the extension in the spine a little bit further along the vertebrae. We'll come back into neutral, just bring the fingertips right into the front edge of the mat so we can tuck the toes underneath and lift ourselves gently into our down dog. Use the toes just to move the block out of the back of the mat so it's out of the way. Have the feet about hip distance apart. It's off to pedal the legs if that feels good. Sometimes it feels nice to stretch the feet out a little more. Sometimes you need to work into the shoulders, into the back, and your hamstrings. So again, just modifying the practice to your needs. Come into a nice steady position in the down dog, and on the inhale, float into a plank. And the hips high, push the shoulders back and lift the hips up. And come up high on the tippy toes and then roll those heels towards the back of the mat into down dog. Go forward again into the plank, breathing in, keeping the abdominal muscles drawn in. Exhaling, lifting up and back. Come forwards again. And take it back. This time we're going to rise with the right leg and scissor that to the sky as high as we can. And then come forwards into the plank, three-legged version. And press back. And lift the leg high again. So get a little bit more squeeze into the buttock. And come forwards again. Press it back. With a squeeze of the buttock to get the leg to lift a little more. Come through for the final time. And last little squeeze. And then you can bring the foot down to the ground. And we'll take it over to the left. Lift the leg high. And forwards into the plank. Press it back gently. Squeeze the lift. Come through. And back. Squeeze that buttock. And forwards. And last, press back. And squeeze a little lift. Use the foot down to the floor. Forwards into a plank and bring your knees gently down to the floor underneath. Right, so to sit down gently onto the heels. Bring the hands underneath your forehead as you sink down into child's pose. So to press down into the floor to sit back up, and as we do, we'll take the knees out wide, feet together. Bring the hands out about shoulder distance apart. We'll take the left hand underneath and out towards the right side. As we come into a gentle twist, laying the shoulder in to the floor, and we'll walk that right hand straight towards the front of the mat. Lift up onto the fingertips, and then try and roll the chest around a little more to the long side of the mat. So it's a strong twist in the spine, but relatively little weight into the neck. So that's a modified version of the thread the needle pose. And then walk the hand back onto the mat. Press ourselves back up. Take a breath. And we'll take the right arm underneath and out. Ease our way down. Walk the fingers out again onto the fingertips. Rotate chest round. Walking the hands back in onto the mat, shoulder distance apart, lifting up, bring the knees back underneath into tabletop. Bootlaces down. See if you can start to lift your knees away from the floor. And then take the knees as high as you can. You're going to roll over those toes gently into the down dog. So get a nice stretch into your feet. Once you arrive, allow your feet to go as wide as the mat. And I'm going to walk hands in towards the toes. So relatively wide stance, feet maybe turning out a little bit. And we'll bend the knees and squat down. You really want the ribs to rest in between your thighs. The knees need to be wide enough for that. Then let the head hang. I'm starting to drown in the t-shirt. Feel a stretch in your spine. Now we'll drive out of this, draw the belly in, keep the head low. Spine rounded for as long as you can. Let the legs open up. Just a nice gentle gorilla roll coming out. Swing the arms up on the breath in. Bring them towards the heart as we exhale the hands through the heart. We can then zigzag the toes back in again. So that hip distance apart and parallel. We hinge over the hips. Lengthen the spine. Down to the floor. Now bend the knees as much as you need to. Lay yourself and then bring the hands onto the shins, keeping the weight even through the foot. Front, back, and sides. Extend the chest forwards. And then fold back in again. So the weight's going to shift through the feet. We're going to try and keep it even all the way through so we don't sink into the hips or the heels. Draw the chest forwards. And slow down. Depending on the time of the day, mornings you're going to be a little tighter. Evenings you're going to be a little looser. So the difference between how far you can bend into a forward bend can be considerable. Last time lifting up, folding down. Hands onto the hips, or take them wide. Draw the shoulders back, soft knees and a flat back to lift up. And we'll just walk into the front end of the mat. So to spread the toes a little bit, find your foundation at the front of the mat here. Bring the hands in towards the heart as we breathe in, and we'll exhale down to the floor as we've done before. As the fingertips come to the ground in line with your toes, allow yourself to send your right foot to the back of the mat into a lunge. We'll stay on the fingertips, let the chest lift, let the shoulders relax back. The front knee is over the ankle. We'll press out through the back heel to a relatively straight leg. Just holding the abdominal muscles in a little bit as well. And then we'll ease the back knee down to the floor. Bring the hands either onto the thigh or alongside the body. And float the body up. You want to bring your pelvis a little bit more over the back knee. So you're moving away from the front of the mat to stretch. And then we'll lift the chest up. Draw the ribs up towards the sky. So it begins a little bit of a back bend. Keep the head in line with the rest of the spine and relax the shoulders down. And then bring hands down to the floor. So turn the back foot, lift the back knee and drop the heel in ready for warrior two. You can bring the hands onto the thigh or alongside your body to lift more dynamically if you wish. Just work with the energy you have in your body. Allow yourself to come into the warrior two. We're going to turn the palm on the front hand into reverse warrior and slide the rear hand behind, fingers towards that front thigh. But deliberately look towards the back foot. Keep the groins open on the front leg, so knee towards little toe. We'll come gently back into our warrior two. Extend out over the front thigh into side angle pose. The forearm comes onto the thigh. Lift the top arm high. Stretch it up and turn the palm forwards as you exhale and lengthen out over the front leg. Now take a breath here and see if you can slide the bottom hand down to the floor, keeping your chest open. A little bit of pressure in the back foot. Allow the hands to come down towards the ground, so turning the chest in a little bit. And take a little breath from there and walk the fingers around to the long side of the mat, turning the toes in. Spine is long to start with. Find the length in your span. You might need to adjust from the lunge. And then on the exhale, we'll hinge from the hips, keeping the spine long and flat. Just bringing that down, squeezing the elbows together a little bit. Again, conscious of keeping the weight even in the feet. Press down through the feet, lift the hips high. Let the back of the knees open that way. And thighs lifting as well as the hamstring stretching. Move slowly around towards the front of the mat. So turning the front leg gently, bringing ourselves into a bent knee to start with. Now going to press the hips over towards the right side as you bring your right hand onto your hip, and then feed your fingers around so the hand is onto the base of the spine. And take a little breath from there. Draw the belly in. Start to straighten the front leg, and then lift your torso just a little away so the hand comes away from the ground. And we're into triangle pose. Now we'll soften the front knee. Bring ourselves gently back into our warrior two. Take the hands high. Rotate towards the front of the mat. We lift the back heel. Bring the hands down to the floor. We're back into our lunge. We'll take a breath. And we'll push off the back toes into that forward bend. And let ourselves hang there for a moment. And again, with the soft knees, flat back, lift our way up. Just shake it out a little. Hands in towards the heart. And exhale down again towards the floor. As we breathe in, left leg goes to the back of the mat. And we hold here on the fingertips. Shoulders relax back, ribs and thighs touching, pressing out through the back heel. Using the back knee down, untucking the toes, we get a little bit more stability through the shin. Again, hands onto the front thigh or alongside the body to lift. Keeping the hips nicely squared up to the front of the mat. Move away, just bringing the pelvis a little more over the knee so the spine is long and flat. And then we're going to lift on the inhale, ribs towards the sky. Try and relax the shoulders down so your ribs lift, but not your shoulders. They kind of soften off a little bit. You should feel more of a stretch through that front hip flexor on the rear leg. Now ease the hands down to the floor. Line those fingertips up with the front toes. Lift the back knee. Drop the heel in, ready for your warrior two. Allow yourself to lift in your choice into your warrior two. Then we'll turn the palm on the front hand and wrap it around. Again, look gently towards that back foot. Gently into the warrior two. Breath in and extend out over the front thigh into the side angle. Forearm comes in, top arm lifts, and it's a lift up, a little bit like we practice with the side bend. Now on the exhale, turn the palm, extend the arm out towards the front of the mat, keeping the back foot pressing down. Take a little breath and so you can just slide the bottom hand down towards the floor. And roll the hand down to the ground, turn the chest in, roll the fingers along to the long side of the mat again. Turn the toes in and have a little adjustment there through the groins. Keep the spine nice and long until you're able to exhale and fold yourself gently down towards the ground. One more breath here. Lift up slowly. Walk the hands around to the front of the mat. So turn the front foot especially. Move the hips a little more over towards the left as the left hand comes onto the hip and we begin to open the chest. Walk the fingers around to the base of your spine so the palm is on your sacrum. Allow yourself to straighten the front leg slowly. Once that's straight, take a more of a breath and start to lift the body. The fingertips are away from the ground. Next, step top onto the skies, bend into the front knee. Lift into our warrior two. Take the hands high on a breath in, rotate and spin the back heel at the same time. Ease down into the lunge. Take a little breath, press off those toes in the back foot. Come into that forward bend and again, just allow ourselves to sink in. Now bring the hands onto the hips again, let ourselves lift on the exhale. And we're shaking out the legs a little bit and walking back into kind of the middle of the mat. Now the feet parallel, hip distance apart. Bring hands in towards the heart. Allow yourself to soften your knees over your toes. Find your focal point just ahead of your mat. Keep your eyes fixed on that as you sit down into your chair pose. And then extend the hands out. Align the torso, palms facing in. Stretch through the fingertips. Now we'll drive through the legs to lift ourselves up slowly. Take it into a little back bend. Bring the hands in towards the heart. Now we'll soften the knees over the toes again and shift the weight into the right foot. Now lift the left leg, turn the knee out, bring the ankle bone to the outside of the thigh, that foot is flexed. Allow yourself to sit down a little deeper into the pose. Oops, a little bit wobbly this morning. And then we'll release. I'm going to work obviously into the second leg. So soften the knees again. Shift weight into the left leg. So you want to keep the knee pointing in the same direction as that bottom foot. Gradually lift the leg, bring it over. The knee actually moves towards the back of the mat a little bit. And so you can sit down a little further into the chair, keeping the spine long. And then we can release from there as well. Turn the arms high on the breath in, through the heart and down to the floor. And walk the fingers into a down dog. Into back as well. Let's just come into plank. Allow yourself to bend your arms. So come into half plank. Little hold there as you hold the belly in. And then an exhale on the breath to come down to the floor. And untuck the toes. Bring the hands right down to the bottom of the ribs. Squeeze the elbows together a little bit for low cobra. So inhale up. Press the thighs down and away. Exhale. Try and roll the heels out if you can to open the space up in the lower back. Use your diaphragm, your belly, to expand. On that breath in, just helps with the lift a little bit, gives you a bit more range. As you come down, take the hands out wide for geckos. Come on to the fingertips. Shoulder blades squeeze together a little. So exhale to press into the fingertips, lift the body up and through. Breathe in on the way down. Belly taut, lifting the chest up and forwards. We're trying to make space in the spine more than we worry about how high we come. Again, you'll notice in the evenings when you do this, you're able to get a little higher, a little more space in the spine. Almost there, last one. Bring yourself gently down. Bring the hands right to the bottom of the ribs. Peel away from the floor gently to come up onto all fours. We'll take the knees wide. Close together. Sit down onto the heels. Take a breath. We'll come into that twist that we did at the beginning again. Just laying down, left hand through to the right side. And hopefully it feels a little easier to be in the pose this time around. Just a little more accessible. We'll slowly lift up on the breath in. And let ourselves move across to the opposite side. And we'll work our way back up. We're going to come into Shavasana for the last few minutes. I'm going to use the block again behind the back of the head. You don't have to. I find it comfortable. Whatever works for your body, hands alongside, and just let the legs lengthen out. Just sliding again the heels along the floor. So same principle utilized when I'm trying to keep those hip flexors as relaxed in the lower back, relaxed as you can as we lengthen the legs out. We're already putting tension back into the body. Make yourself a wriggle through the shoulders and the hips. And the lips a couple of times. We just rest with the eyes closed. Let the breath settle. Begin to stretch the fingers and toes slightly. Allow the wrists and ankles to begin to move, just to bring the nervous system back together with the body, mind, and the breath. You're ready. Use your breath to stretch out in a way that is meaningful to your body. Use the opportunity to slide the heels in along the floor again. Let the knees travel towards you as you take a gentle, easy hug. We'll take a breath in and use the exhale to roll onto our right side. Take a breath down there as well. And then use the exhale to press into the floor with the hands, smoothly guide ourselves back to sitting. Sitting tall, easy posture, let the hands come to the heart. Close your eyes as you take the breath in. A slow exhale, letting the chin drop. Finding the belly drawn towards the spine, a simple bow forms. This is our practice. On the inhale, let the spine build with the breath. Let the head lift, eyes open. Namaste. Thank you very much for joining me this morning. See you again on the mat soon.